welcome everyone, and blessings to Soham for continuing to dig out new technology options so that I can see more of you. I believe I can see up to almost 50 people now, and that is just wonderful because your presence, especially when you keep coming back and when I see your expressions, it gives the teacher a satisfaction that I'm having a dialogue and not a monologue. So wonderful. And yes, Aparna and I were talking earlier, and this is all new technology for us. You know, I am old school. I learned sitting around my teacher. He would sit on a cot or a chair and I would sit at his feet. And I have come a long way. And we are now seeing that this online classroom can be a very viable way of connecting with hearts and minds across the world. Today, I talked to 5 of my Sadasyas from Melbourne to Phoenix to Virginia. I was talking to them today in a new initiative that I have started called Sitting with Your Teacher. And I will be meeting in small groups, my Sadasyas, so that once to twice a year, you will be having an informal chit chat with me. It was very beautiful to hear their stories, their power, and their motivation. So I saw the power of technology, and I would like that we think how we can make an incredible culture around our online classroom, so that it feels like Baba's home and we feel like we are channeling our great teachers all the way from Vyasacharya onwards. And we can invite teachers like Lord Krishna to come and teach us. So I actually had a call of duty, a domestic duty asked upon me right before the Bhagavad Gita, and I found a delicate way to convey to my life partner if I could be excused, because I was preparing my consciousness to teach, and he totally understood. So you can probably get up on Thursday mornings and know that you are moving towards the reception of knowledge that will change your life. How will you shower that day? What will you eat that day? And how less will you talk that day? How clean would your home be that day for Lord Krishna and his teachings to come to you via me? All of this can really hone your soil to receive those seeds. So many blessings to you, and we are all in this together. Even I'm trying to figure out that culture. Yeah. All right, so let us begin with our prayers, and a very fascinating class lies ahead of you as we begin our formal exploration of Karma Yoga in chapter 2 in a brief way, and then in a fuller way coming up in the next chapter. Narayana Samarambham Vyasa Shankara Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Muninam Matye Mahabharatam Advaita-mrita-varshanim Bhagavatim Ashtadasha-dhyayanim Amba Tvam-anusandadhami Bhagavata Bhavat Dveshani. Shri Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. We call Krishna Jagadguru not as a religious godhead, but really as a teacher of wisdom that is universal, timeless, applicable for all beings. If you are in sorrow, then wisdom is not optional. It is a gift to you from the universe so that you can claim your inner sorrow-free birthright to be sorrow-free. And if you are in joy, then this is a great time to receive this as a prasad, as a blessing, so that you can share this joy with all other beings and spread the news that ups and downs come, but suffering and depression and self-sabotage is really optional, and we do have other choices. We were very fortunate that in the beginning of chapter 2, from the verse 12 to 25, we received the highest philosophy of the Atma, or the undying, unborn, limitless, boundless self, known as Atman. Then we were led through certain more worldly reassurances known as the Laukika philosophy on Swadharma. On how we should live up in our life with pride and honor. Then we were led through certain teachings on Swadharma, which is to live closely to who we really are at an egoic level, but what resounds, where does our ego feel more comfortable in terms of its innermost memory of being a soul, being a spirit. And so it has come with certain premeditated convictions of its own courage, or of its own holiness, or of its own creativity. And so it should give vent to that unapologetically and beautifully and receive the fame that comes with it. And finally, from verse 38 onwards, we begin turning towards a profound teaching of Karma Yoga. Really, there are only two main teachings of the entire Vedic tradition. It's Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Even Upasana Yoga, which is formal ways of self-discipline and worship and how to talk, how to move, how to breathe, or Ashtanga Yoga, this is all part of Karma Yoga if you think about it, because if karma means action. But then the rishis decided that a specialized Karma Yoga is called Upasana Yoga, which is taken up by certain people, not by the masses. And he talks about it later. But really, if you look at it, there are two paths: the path of action, known as Karma Yoga, and the path of knowledge, known as Jnana Yoga. Path of action, Karma Yoga, precedes the path of knowledge and creates the preliminary requirements, really, for us to reach the state of freedom that we desire. And this is not freedom from out of problems or your spouse or your difficult boss. This is the path of reaching the state of inner freedom, known as moksha or mukti. Both of them work beautifully together. Lord began with teaching the goal first, which is Jnana Yoga, but now he teaches the path, which is Karma Yoga. And of course, Bhakti Yoga is where there are two words, Bhakti and Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti means devotion, but Bhakti Yoga means using our devotion to become steadfast in our intentions to reach the inner God, the inner self. So confused understanding of Bhakti Yoga has reduced Bhakti Yoga to chanting and kirtan and bhajans and singing and devotion and emotional behavior towards God, which is all part of Bhakti Yoga. But what it does not include is contemplations, such as if I'm in God's world, I'm safe. If difficult things are coming to me, they are God's prasad, and so there is a gem that lies within. And that no matter what comes my way, this is for my own growth, because God is not only far away, but everywhere and inside me. So none of this is random, none of it is a punishment. And because there is God with me, I can reduce my dependence upon worldly people, samsari people, people who are confused, who betray us, who cheat us, who change their mind. And instead, I can start cultivating a very deep relationship with God That is bhakti yoga. So we should bring bhakti and yoga, these words together, and not reduce bhakti yoga to merely, I chant morning and night, I sing bhajans, I listen to bhajans, and I'm done. So I start crying when I remember God. But if that remembrance of God can make you become a yogi, then it becomes bhakti yoga, because then only a bhakti yogi will say, and I know Shastra has told me God lives inside me, and and that God is the self, none other. So I want to find this amazing God self within me. So karma yoga and jnana yoga and the specialized karma yoga known as upasana yoga is practiced in the atmosphere of trust in God and drawing strength from God in times of difficulty so that we don't give up our yogas. This is known as bhakti yoga. We have come very far, my dear students. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud of our sankalpas that we are making and the blessings we are receiving from our ancestral teachers and our Mahalineage, that we have come so far, and each shloka is changing the texture of thinking in my students' hearts and minds, because from my conversations with them, from the blogs you are writing, from the postings that you are doing, I can see that this knowledge is beginning to strengthen you and deepen you, and this gives me deep joy. That is the way we should study the Gita, not how many verses I know, not how many I have memorized, not how many I have plagiarized, but how many verses have ended the misconceptions and misnotions and the sense of limitations that I was holding, because of which I was acting in very unnoble ways, hurting myself and hurting others. I'm awakening to my true splendor, my true responsibility, and to my true opportunity. That is the blessing of the Gita. So let us begin. And I have already reviewed verse 38, but I will briefly mention to you that in verse 38, we get introduced to the ideal of Karma Yoga, which is samatvam, S-A-M-A-T-V-A-M, samatvam. You can try saying that, samatvam. Samatvam means a balanced state of mind where, when the intellect is faced with sukha dukkha or sorrow and pain, when the mind is faced with loss and gain, and when the body experiences viscerally defeat and victory, because when we are victorious on something, our body feels relaxed. And when we are defeated by anything, our body feels it, right? So these three levels, body, mind, and intellect, as you know, mind and intellect is the same mind broken into a lower acting, reacting function, and a discerning and judging function is the intellect. So these three experiences are experienced in the non-self, or the outer veneer surrounding the true self, Atma. But if we can use karma yoga, if we become karma yogis, what will we experience as a result? What will be the phala? What will be the fruit of the shruti that you are hearing? You will experience samatva. You will be like the lighthouse where millions of huge waves are crashing on it. But you will not be like the waves that are rising and crashing. You will be the lighthouse that is standing resolute. So that is what we want. And so therefore, I can just chant it once more, just to remember. Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labho jaya jayo tato yuddhaya yujyasva nevam papam apapsyasi nevam papam avapsyasi. So this is the teaching, and you have to go back and review the last class to know what were the details. But I summarized that this is it's almost like the tip of the iceberg, samatvam. So now let us go into verse 39. Esha te vihita sankhye buddhir yoge tvemashrunu buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandhan prahasyasi. So this is a wonderful shloka in which the teacher, Lord Krishna, has not explained what is karma yoga as yet, which will be coming up, but he is he's such a persuasive teacher, yeah, that he is giving some of the frills around karma yoga, you can say, because he is giving very convincing or very positive reasons for why we should um, follow karma yoga. So, so in the next two verses, he kind of gives that. And so in this verse, he simply says that, you have the knowledge imparted to you till now. That means he was mainly referring to Jnana Yoga, the knowledge of Atma, from 12 to 25, deals with Samkhya. Now, Samkhya has several meanings, and Samkhya here means truth, which is revealed in the Upanishads. And what is that truth? That truth is the truth of myself, my big self, which is known as Atman and which is common to all beings. And when it's common, it is called Brahman. Two words, one meaning. So Sankhya here means Atma. So he's saying up till now, Eshete Bihita Sankhya, up till now, you have been learning, I have imparted to you the knowledge of the truth, that you are not the body that dies, you are not the mind that has become panicky, you are an amazing eternal, lasting, enduring, all-powerful being. You are Atman, and up till now that knowledge is there. But now I shall give you the yoga of what? It is known as Karma Yoga. Another word for Karma Yoga, interestingly, is also Buddhi Yoga. Another word for Gyan Yoga is Atma Yoga, knowledge of Atman. And this is also known as Buddhi Yoga. Why? Because here we really start operating by conscious choice with using our sleeping or very rarely used faculty called the higher mind or the buddhi or the intellect. We all have it, but we don't always use it. At least I have noticed changes in my students and in my own life. I noticed when I was mind-driven. So, if happiness came, I became happy. If sorrow came, I became sorrowful. If challenge came, I became challenged. If rejection came, I became rejected. If appreciation came, I felt appreciated, because the mind is just a mirror of the circumstances. But the intellect is, closer to the soul or the sakshi or the observer, and it tends to say, rejection is coming, why me? What does that mean? And then intellect is a very relaxed person, a mind sitting on a wonderful, chair, relaxed. And it says, now, according to Bhakti Yoga, everything is Ishvara's will. So perhaps this rejection is coming to me because Ishvara is being kind enough to send me rejection when all the time, 99% time, I get appreciation. But he or she or that Ishvara, because we don't know who is Ishvara is, can be in any body, as we know. And so Ishvara, that omnipresent, omniscient Ishvara, is sending me rejection, repeated rejection by this certain soul, so that I can look beyond that rejection and understand who I am, whether I get rejection or appreciation. So this is a great, beloved, splendid opportunity. So the only intellect can think like that, leisurely. And then it can say, so as a result, every time that rejection pierces my heart, I will do this, and I will say, oh. So only intellect can plan this kind. So, in Karma Yoga, we start living by the intellect. And then, a lot of our problems go away, because if we live by our mind, then, we can quickly hire people, quickly fire people, quickly marry people, quickly divorce people, quickly reject friends, quickly make friends. And we can stay a little bit in a very, I'm forgetting the word for it, but chanchalya, the English word is, oh, you got it, right? Like bubbles. Sometimes my English fails me. Please forgive me. But chanchalya means being impulsive, being impulsive. Sometimes it works. Probably the only time you should be impulsive is when you are feeling devotion to your God. Then you can cry and scream and love and rejoice, and that's okay. But otherwise, we should use our intellect. So it's known as Buddhi Yoga. So he's saying, I'm teaching you a Buddhi Yoga. And he doesn't use the word Karma Yoga. So every word in this Gita can be explained, he's going to use Karma Yoga, Karma Yoga. So he kind of, by saying, I'm now teaching you Buddhi Yoga, in a way, he's saying that we're now moving from the realm of the soul to the intellect. That's what he's saying. Yeah. When you do Ashtanga Yoga, when you do physical yoga, you don't need intellect. Then you need what? Sharira Yoga, right? Body Yoga. So when you are doing pranayama, you need prana yoga. But now you're using intellect. So we are thinking that you want to be a thinking, discerning being. Actually, we say, I think a lot, but we don't think a lot. We just have the same memories and the same cluster of thoughts running through our mind. But when you really go into Buddhi Yoga, you really start using your thinking faculty to think through some issues, some problems, and how to be in the world. So Karma Yoga is an amazing teaching. And so in this one, he's simply saying that now I shall teach you Yoga Imam Buddhi Shrinu. Now I shall teach you another knowledge that deals with buddhi, with the intellect. And so this is a transitional shloka from Jnana Yoga, or the teachings of soul, to the teachings of how to use the intellect to live in the world, to be a worldly being, but using the intellect. Okay. And and then he says here, in a way, he's saying that he's not saying, and now I'm replacing Jnana Yoga's need with Karma Yoga. In fact, he's saying that Buddhya Yuktya Yaya Partha Karma Bandham Prahasyasi. He's saying that actually Jnana Yoga, or the knowledge of the self, is a sure shot way to liberate us. But Karma Yoga is the way to reach Jnana Yoga. Because nowadays, if you look at any average website, it will say there are 4 yogas for 4 types of people. So you should just get off that website, because it's not correct. Okay. Then it will say nowadays Jnana Yoga is very difficult path to liberation. So therefore Karma Yoga is the sure shot path to liberation. And then some will say Karma Yoga is also a very difficult path because it requires you to think and be selfless. As a result, chanting is the best method for liberation. So you shall find all these promotions. Okay. And these are not new. From ancient time, this is going on. So there is a tendency to say Jnana Yoga is very difficult. Just move it out. It's a very sorry state, because this is the only path. If you have, the issue is you have forgotten who you are. So you have to remember who you are. And only unless you hear who you are will you remember who you are. If you have forgotten your address, where you live, whose mother you are, whose daughter you are, whose sister you are, you have to have a conversation with somebody called a Acharya, and that person will remind you. Remember, you are just visiting. This is not your home. So we have to remind you. All this lives in Jnana Yoga. But to say it's difficult is building a lot of confusion around it. And what Lord wants to say here is no. Can you say geometry is difficult? Some people might find geometry difficult. Some people find it medium. Some people find it easy. So geometry is geometry. You just have to study the skills to be able to approach geometry. You need your fundamentals. What is a triangle? What is a square? What is a circle? How to use a compass. You need to know all that to be able to one day come to a place of comfort with geometry. So similarly, Karma Yoga is almost a preliminary path, or the first level of understanding, which shall make your leap into Jnana Yoga very comfortable. However, in my school, I started with Tattva Bodh, which was a Jnana Yoga text. The reason for that is we always begin with Jnana Yoga because we are a Jnana Yoga based sampradaya, and even Lord begins his teachings with Jnana Yoga. We don't begin with the simplest teaching. We begin with the most complex teaching, because we respect that some of you may be not hearing this knowledge for the first time. Some of you may be receiving it for the final time. And so we will cut your journey short towards self-realization by starting with Z and not with A. And then we come down, down, down. So I had taught Jnana Yoga, then Karma Yoga, and expounded quite a lot on Karma Yoga, Panchayajnas. And then I taught Bhakti Yoga, which was like the ABCD of it. So this is how this is how the Gita too is. You study Jnana Yoga first, then you study Karma Yoga, then you study Bhakti Yoga, because we are talking to a very select group of souls. We are not I just want come. We are not trying to solicit students. We are trying to talk to your souls. We are trying to truly support you. If we excuse me. Ajo. If we only wanted to, if the Vedic tradition only wanted to give a simple solution, here is a simple solution. Nadia, If the Vedic tradition only, it's not the Vedic tradition is not a cookie cutter problem solvers. It's tradition, it's the ultimate wisdom. And it trusts that each one of you is the ultimate Atman. You have only forgotten. So if you've forgotten less, or you have remembered in previous lifetimes due to interaction with previous gurus, or even in this lifetime you have had some other gurus and you are ready, Jnana Yoga first. Otherwise, Karma Yoga. Otherwise, Bhakti Yoga. None is dispensable. And to directly want to claim some real estate in Jnana Yoga or Karma Yoga without Bhakti Yoga would be not prudent. They all work together. Jnana Yoga cannot stand without Karma and Bhakti. Bhakti leads to Karma and Jnana. And Karma is the bridge. Karma Yoga, not just Karma, is the bridge between Bhakti and Jnana. So I'm happy that I have the luxury and the support of students like all of you who are eager to have the full view and not the part view. Okay, and that is what Lord Krishna will also seriously suggest, that we need the whole view and not go for the part. Okay, so in this one, you see that he's just simply saying that if you study Karma Yoga, Karma Bandham Prahasyasi, then what happens is, I had mentioned this in the last class, that if we keep on performing karmas randomly, even I'm teaching it's a karma, and if I don't know what I'm doing, if I'm not a karma yogi and I'm only what's called as a karmi, there are two things, karmi and karma yogi. So if I'm not a yogi with my actions, but I'm just doing it for some random reasons, like I like to be on the webinar, I like to teach, I like how you people send me nice letters, and XYZ, then what happens is that this will all, either for good reasons or bad reasons, I will create karma vipaka, or I will create a fruit of karma. And because it will not all come to me in this lifetime, I will need to create another body. Then in the new body, again, I'll be a karmi and act holy, act nasty, act good, act confused. And then what will happen is I will go on having lifetime after lifetime, obliged to deal with sorrow and joy and all of it mindless. And then death comes again. Then we are born again, then a short youth, then a short period of disappointment, then again death. So we will get caught in samsara. So he's saying that the benefit Lord Krishna is saying here is that now we are going from Sankhya to the buddhi, to intellect level, and the yoga I am teaching you is going to lead to karma bandha prahasyasi. You will get out of this mindless creation of karmas that bind you into a chain of ceaseless birth and death. I don't know if this is important to you, but very early on in my 20s, I had started feeling like, what's the purpose of this life? And, I just had this feeling that I've done this too many times and I need to know who I am. And next time I have this life, whether I'm born an Acharya or a princess, I don't have a memory of choosing this, and I want to choose. So the next one, let me just shut the door 1 second and just... It is a bit confusing what to do with the other jiva in the household. If I shut the door, sometimes he barks at the doors. And usually it is during Bhagavad Gita class where he's most vocal. Otherwise, he's rather quiet at this time. So maybe it's his way. And these are some things that we put up with. Sukha dukkha, labha labha, and jaya ajaya come to us in anything we do. So now let us look at verse 40. And the verse 40 says, so he's continuing to, he's actually not telling us what is karma yoga, but he's continuing to tell us the benefits and how it's different. So he's kind of giving us the contextual knowledge, which is very empowering. Neha bhikramana shosti pratyavayo na vedyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Very beautiful one. He says that he's glorifying karma yoga, of course, and he says it is a way of life. So it's a way of life. It's a mindful way of life. That's anything which has the word yoga in it. It becomes a way of life in which we grow internally. We grow in leaps and bounds at an emotional level, at a spiritual level, at a psychological level. And we give more importance to inner growth than to external accomplishment. So when you become from a karmi to a karma yogi, a karmi only looks after, what's my job? What bigger house do I have? What kind of car am I driving? What kind of nails do I have? What kind of hair do I have? What kind of earrings do I have? Does my pet, look worthy of walking next to me, or do I look worthy of walking next to my pet? So everything is very external. And Veda has no issues with external prosperity and abundance, and even recommends us to be secure. But there is a movement in karma yoga from constantly seeking external accomplishment to saying, but what about internal accomplishment? Sit with that. Who am I internally? The theater of your existence is going to change from being an actor outside trying to stack up your worldly ducks to somebody who is now beginning to seek really deep inner peace internally. And if that is not something you're ready for, then you have to go back in the world of bhakti yoga and look at how, despite your best efforts, betrayal, difficulty, loss, dejection, stabs in the back are coming your way, and there is no real security. And so when you start praying, God himself or herself or itself shall reveal within you the desire that God is really peace. God is really harmony. God is the ability to have values so that you can discern who is a friend and who should be at a distance. So the whole thing has to flower from within. And most of the time we are like corpses, you know, we go shopping every season and put on clothes, and we try to make friends online or in person, and we're always disappointed and unhappy. But in Karma Yoga, Lord is saying that now everything is changing, because you are now giving yourself permission that inner growth is important, my peace of mind is important. In fact, the very basic fundamental teaching of Gita and Karma Yoga is that there is a very major misperception that our happiness and our joy and our bliss and our comfort and our security lies outside us. And this is the big delusion that we all have collectively. It's a mass hypnosis, and it's a very big misconception. So it's a myth, it's a delusion, a misconception, a misperception, and it's a cultural legacy of of false living that we are passing on to our children. And our history, our literature, our science, our geography, our technology, our art, everything, none of it is, well, probably art is trying to break that norm, and probably, there are some peripheral teachings around it, but nothing hits it nothing hits the nail on the head like the Gita does, or the Upanishads do, saying, what's going on here? None of it is real. Everything becomes a snake bite after a while. Every piece of happiness turns into sorrow. So you can know it. Everything you eat sooner or later becomes foul-smelling elimination or toxin or a future disease. Very short-lived youth, very short-lived promises, short-lived love. So it's like, where do I find the real deal? And this is where he says that Karma Yoga, so in this, he's saying, in this field, the shloka says, in this field, which means Karma Yoga, which you begin by using your intellect, there is no adverse result. He's saying that, whereas in the world, everything you do sooner or later, there is, if you're just a karmi, if you're just acting out, then you will have adverse results. And then he says, even a little bit of this discipline protects you from what? From the great fear of samsara. From the great fear of samsara here, which causes anxiety, depression, morbid thoughts, and even the desire to suicide or kill others. And the samsara outside, which I've described the two samsaras last class, where you get caught in the wheel of birth and death ceaselessly, obliged to transmigrate and take on new bodies in human body, animal body, plant body, insect body, demonic body, angelic body, but body, 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 birth, live, death. Birth, live, die. Birth, live, die. This is a cage, whether it is an iron cage, copper cage, stainless steel cage, golden cage, diamond cage. A cage is a cage. No freedom. This is called samsara. Externally, it bounds you, and internally, it bounds you in having to suffer. So therefore, Krishna says that, but look what he's promising. He's saying with Karma Yoga, you have no issues. And let me explain this. This is so beautiful. So some people say, oh, Karma Yoga is miraculous, this, that. No, let me explain what Baba wanted to tell us. And I believe, and I add my 2 cents on that you see, when you are a karmi, so many people go to an astrologer or to a guru or to a teacher or some saintly person and say, especially in India, it's very popular. So people will say, I want a son, not a daughter. Indians are very sadly caught up in all of that. So they will say, I want a son, or somebody will say, I want my daughter to have a good husband, or I want to have money to buy a house. So we have these desires. So we will go, and somebody will say, yeah, you can chant Gayatri mantra, and you have to chant it, 1,100,000 times, and you have to chant it at this time, and you have to hold the mala this way, and you have to pronounce it this way. So you start chanting, and yes, Gayatri mantra is very popular and very powerful, and it shall give you what you need. But this kind of usage of the spiritual mantra, if you chant one mantra less, and if you chant in the wrong way, and if you chant without mindfulness and enough respect for the spiritual goal, then no son, or no money, no son-in-law, or no money coming, because it failed. Because in the material pursuits, everything, all the ducks have to line up, including your mantra, because you're using it like a spiritual toolbox to get what you want. You know, your ego is totally invested in it, and it's milking the mantra to milk the universe. And so, you know, there can be what is known as a failure. But when you chant the same Gayatri, the way I teach it, this way I teach it, for internal growth, then what happens is everything changes. For example, when you chant Bhu Bhuva Swaha, there are 9 words in it. So you chant Bhu Bhuva Swaha the way I have taught it for inner growth. Then you know that with Bhu itself, you are asking for self-confidence. For Bhuva, you are asking for karma yogi tendencies, and for Swaha, you are asking for self-realization. So from Bhu is bhakti, Bhuva is karma yoga, bhakti yoga, karma yoga, and Swaha is jnana yoga. Then when you go Tat Savitur Varenyam, with Tat you are asking for knowledge of Atman. With Savitur you are asking for all your Shaktis to come together and not be dispersed. With Varenyam you are asking to become one with the excellence of Ishvara, the God. With Bhargo you are asking for a pure, soft heart. With Devasya, you are asking for a vision that can see the soul beyond the chrysanthemum, beyond the servant, beyond the cruel person, good person. You want to have the eyes to see the truth, and the truth that can tell you who you should have company with, who you should part with. You should have clarity in your vision. With Dhimahi, you want all good qualities. You want all the values taught by Bhagavad Gita to become your internal system. With Dhiyo, you want Viveka, or ability to take decision between what are my right priorities, which will lead me to myself and which will lead me to forget myself. With Yonaha, you want a whole life to be a flow, a balance. And with Prachodayat, you want to no longer just need, you want to be able to give. See? This is the way I teach it. This is the way our lineage teaches it. This is the way Baba. So this is a karma yoga way of chanting the mantra. We just want inner growth. And when you chant, so now he's saying, now you will never fail. Whether you chant it in the wrong way, whether you chant, and you thought you will chant 9 mantras, you chanted only 1. Whether you chanted half asleep, half awake, fully awake, something worthy of your intention will come back to you, because if there will always be growth, because this has nothing to do with your ego wanting to hoard and accumulate, but it is wanting you to become one with the divine wholeness and beauty and intelligence and perfection and compassion, and to become an instrument of the divine. So therefore there is no such thing Iha bhikramanashosti. There is no such thing called failure. From a worldly angle, somebody can say a karma yogi has failed. I am a karma yogi inside Vedika, and after 6 years, I changed the college format of Ayurveda into a wellness format. And so there were actually some students who criticized their Acharya heavily and said, oh, she has failed, so she cannot be our Acharya, probably. They are not in my school anymore. And did I fail? Did I lose a day's sleep? Did I lose my health? Those who are still with me, the Vimlas and the Aparnas, the old students, and the Prasannas and the Sharanyas, they know that I was a karma yogi. How did I fail? It only blossomed into the amazing Ayurveda, one-of-a-kind, unique offering that I am giving. That by running that college and seeing how that college was becoming nothing but what the world wanted it. These organizations which are telling someone like me to teach Ayurveda in the boxed and canned and stale and diluted manner, I don't want to teach according to those standards. I want to set a new standard. The Ayurveda department that will now grow out of Vedika is going to be an Ayurveda that is rooted in the Vedas and to the Rishi wisdom. And anybody who walks through our school, some of your Ayurveda students now, your whole life transforms. And if to run a college, it meant, locking it up under more rules and more regulations of people who are not really an authority to set rules and regulations, in my view. So therefore, and I'm not even pleased with the way Ayurveda is taught in India either. So I knew clearly that because the whole thing was for self-growth and for the growth of all beings. So from a worldly perspective, you can say, oh, if we had run a college, we would have been making $1 million and XYZ. But by not running the college and by being who we are, we have more inner growth. So therefore, we can only be successful. And so a karma yogi never knows failure. They only knows growth. I have had so much growth in leaps and bounds in my entire kula, because every time we failed, we gained, inner growth. So therefore, when it says pratyevayo na vidyate, it literally means there is never any adverse result, because we are becoming karma yogis not for worldly fame and worldly accumulation, my children, but we are doing this to really go deep inside us. So say if there is a karma yogi and there is just a karmi, and both of them start a similar restaurant business, and if the karmi gains money, they feel very happy. If the karmi loses the money, they might shoot themselves or get very upset, or file a lawsuit and X, Y, Z, and go from one problem to another. Whereas a karma yogi will say, oh, I lost money, but here is what I learned, that this is not what I have to do. So this is how a karma yogi's attitude is like, oh, that was huge learning. That's really great. And so they just go, they are not living from a material plane, but in a karma yogi, we start thinking from a spiritual plane. So this is really what is beautiful. And then he says, Swalpam apyasya dharmasya. And so he's saying that if karma yoga, to the extent you understand, to the extent you practice it, to the extent it directs your intellect and your thinking, to that extent you are benefited. So even a little bit of its practice gives you peace of mind, and inner growth takes place. But if you don't know it, then you're just going from one problem to another, trying to find joy, trying to hoodwink sorrow, finding sorrow anyway sooner or later, then having a breakdown, then, so there is no inner growth. There is only loss, bitterness, disappointment, self-deception. But karma yoga is really, in that extent, deeply, deeply, powerful. So therefore, even alpa means less. Even alpa karma yoga is enough. But if you are trying to, get a soulmate by chanting, probably a soulmate, I don't know if it is spiritual or whatever, but who's a soulmate? If you want your own soul to come to you so that then you can attract who you want, and why would you want to attract anyone? Because you'll become the most attractive thing anyway, and then you'll have to choose between all the so-called people who want to propose to you. So the point is that if you're going to become your own fullness, your own inner growth, then this happens through changing your attitudes, using your intellect. But if you're using sakama karma, or karmas which are worldly desires, then you have to chant the Gayatri a certain way. You have to do everything the right way. But if you are doing it, or you can say Gayatri mantra, or you can say opening the restaurant also. Oh, you have to be a perfectionist. You have to control everything. You need a perfect business plan. You need so many backups. But if you're a karma yogi, you can try something. You can take a risk, because you will be learning all along. And, and success and failure due to bhakti yoga, you will already know that it is in the hands of the Lord, because bhakti yoga explains that our artha, our survival, and our pleasures are not in our hands, but in our prarabdha karmas. So you can open all the restaurant you want, whether you open the restaurant or don't open the restaurant. The point is, all that is already fixed, but we open the restaurant because work is the way. We have to do our part. But we are not, the goal of the restaurant, or the goal of being an acharya, or the goal of being a student, or the goal of being a mother, if you're a karma yogi mother, then it is not about how perfectly you raised your child, but it is about how much inner growth you had while raising your child. So this is the beautiful part of it. And then let us come to shloka 41, very important one. And he says, Vyavyasatmika buddhihi ekeha kurunandana bahushaka henantascha buddhaya vyavasayanam vyavasayatmika buddhihi ekeha kurunandana bahushaka henantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. So this one, even if you go to some of our Vedic scriptures and related texts, not just Advaita is very clear, but if you go to our older Vedic text and there, we have so many vidyas. We say we have 108 systems of knowledge that are emanating, spiritual sciences that are emanating from the Veda, then there are countless. I think they are ananta. Ananta means limitless, and here ananta has been used as countless. So countless sadhanas have been described, okay? And so the Vedic tradition is a bit confusing. If you compare it to, for example, Christian 10 commandments, or you compare it to the eightfold middle path. That's why these religions are also more popular and more clear, more easy to explain because they are simple, They may be profound, but they are simple in their width. They may be deep, but they are width-wise. We are wide also, deep also. And then we have, pieces and parts floating around, this connects to that. So it takes a long time to really understand the Vedic map, and you really can't do it on your own. And even I feel like I'm just coming into understanding all of it, in a more relevant way, and then I have to find my focus, which is Advaita in the Upanishads. So, but anyway, so because, and all our scriptures are voluminous. They're like, several 100,000 verses just to talk about a part of something which is horizontally connected to the main thing. So it's very voluminous. And then we have the Vedas, then we have the Itihasas, these are other sets of texts, then we have Puranas, then we have the Brahmanas, then we have the Aranyakas. So these are all different texts, all connected. So it's not possible. That is why we had Sampradayas. Sampradayas were the need of the hour, so that this huge body of collection of wisdom could be held in different Sampradayas, and then we would have Sampradaya meets, so that we could discuss our knowledge and keep it and together. And they have kept this knowledge alive. These were called shakhas, or branches that would keep alive. Okay, we'll keep this part of the Yajurveda alive, we will keep that part of the Rig Veda alive, and we will keep the Puranas alive, so that the knowledge could be there. And each one of them had sadhanas, okay? And some sadhanas or practices which are called, which are now devotional karmas, to purify your ego and to move forward. They were so they were sadhanas of the parts, not the whole. So so if you go to some sampradayas, they will say puja, just do puja, morning, afternoon, evening, put one deity there, or your chosen deity, and then if it's a Hindu deity, then pour milk, then pour water, then pour this. We also do some of that if we want to, but it's not our main focus. So okay, just do puja. When the Lord wants, He will give you moksha, salvation. He'll free you from fear of samsara, etc. Another sampradaya which has a part of the whole will say, okay, japa, just do japa, Gayatri japa, this japa, that japa, Mahanarayan japa, Vishnu Sahasranama japa, this, do japa. Okay, and japa is the way. Another will say, no, bhajans, just heart, you should be flowing, that's all you need. Others will say, every year, 3 times a year, you must come to this temple and do this, and then this ritual and that ritual. So this is how it is in India. In the and then you will find amazing stories, and I have shared some of those stories. For example, there was this Dharma Vyadha story from the Upanishads. He was a butcher, and he was a karma yogi butcher. So he achieved freedom from karma just by being a butcher. So if you hear that story, and if that's the only story you hear, then you will say, oh, I don't have to do anything. I just have to be who I am. in my job and I'll be set free. So it's very confusing, you know. There was another great singer, so he achieved swadharma through singing, and then he broke free from karma. So every story is explained as the ultimate answer. So this is how we were slightly hyperbole, slight, as if there is a tendency. So if you study Durga Sahasranama, it's a teaching on Lord Devi Durga, it feels like she is the only path, one and only goddess. Then if you study the, Vishnu Samhita, then you feel Vishnu is the only God. Then if you study the hymns on Ganesh, you feel he is the only God. So what happened was, but in the ancient days, there were two kinds of people, teachers. There was the Acharya/Rishi tradition, Acharya Guru Rishi tradition, academics. They understood the whole picture. And then there was the Purohita, which is the priest. They were the people who were interfacing with the common people. The Purohitas, what they did was, they were like what happened in Christianity, you know, they just started giving little bits of pieces here at wear this gem, chant this mantra, do this Sandhya Vandam without any inner growth. Just pour water to the sun and then everything will be okay. It's like there's no connection to where is the sun. Sun represents Atma, so I'm talking to my own self. So what happened was, fewer and fewer people went to the Acharya Guru Rishi Parampara, and anyway only few people can understand the Acharya tradition and take responsibility. And more people want to go to the Purohit-like people who give quick fixes. Now, even today what happens is, how many students are sitting in front of me and how many students are sitting in front of teachers who give quick fixes? And their entire quick fix will be so many breathing techniques, one mantra, and this one japamala brought from my store will set you free. It's just an example. Most people want quick fixes, and we can't blame them. Everybody is suffering from sorrow, and they also benefit from the other teachers. But what Lord wants to say here is that it's very confusing, unfortunately, because these quick fixes are only part of the whole, and the whole lies in a very clear understanding. And that clear understanding of what am I doing? What sadhana have I taken up? Why have I taken up? Where is it leading me? And what is my ultimate goal? Is my ultimate goal to have a darshan of Ma Durga? Or is my ultimate goal to find my inner Durga? That's the question. What am I doing? And that kind of clarity, the word here, you can underline it in your text. It is called Vyavyasatmika Buddhi. Vyavyasatmika Buddhi means clear understanding. There is complete clarity of what devotional karmas have I taken up, rather than becoming scattered. And obviously, when Lord was giving this lecture, even at that time, there must have been sellers of the providers of the quicker spirituality, where the means became the end, the chant became the end, the meditation became the end, rather than meditation and chant being the means to purify our mind so that we can receive Jnana Yoga. The meditation became the end in itself. And what it does is it dilutes humanity in general, because Lord was feeling the pain that so many are trying to come to me, but they get lost in the smaller spirals, genuinely wanting relief from true sorrow, but only coming away with a small carrot to nibble upon, and the carrot gives them some relief. So for example, if a student when you come to me, and I have also taught Gayatri Sadhana, I have also taught Sandhya Sadhana, I have also taught Jnana Sadhana, but I never stay there as it is the ultimate sadhana. For me, the ultimate sadhana is whatever can take you to moksha, whatever can take you to the true you, and you can wake up to Brahman within you, then that everything else is a means to it. So what he's saying here is very clearly that we have to we should have a clear idea of every sadhana and its role, and we should understand which is the tool and what is the end, what is the means, what is the end, and what are the intermediary ends in between. And all of this clarity, we want a vyavasyatmika buddhi, or in English we can say crystal clear spiritual map in our buddhi, in our intellect. What are we doing? If you stay with me in the karma yoga teachings, which I have never taught before because the details are in Bhagavad Gita, and then I will activate after I have completed karma yoga, one or two teachers to be able to keep reviewing karma yoga with you, while Aparna will keep reviewing helping you supporting the Gyan yoga sadhanas known as sadhana chatushtayam. So anyway, we are for the first time as a group foraying through these deep teachings, and look at how Lord Krishna is such a strong teacher. He's first of all saying what's not okay. And that's really amazing, what's not okay. And what is not acceptable. It's like, let me do a little bit of this, little bit of that. It should be very clear. And so he says the ultimate goal is freedom. Okay, whether you like it or not, if you really sit with this, question yourself, what do I really want? And I'll tell you what you really want. You want freedom. Even when you were a baby, you were holding on to your mom's hand, but the moment you could walk, you want to walk on your own. And even in an emotional relationship, no matter how valuable it is, if it starts suffocating you, you want space. So animals want freedom. No animal wants to be in the zoo. I have a problem with zoo. I want to ban the zoos. I don't know if you feel it that way, but it hurts me even to talk about it. How dare we humans put specimens for our viewing pleasure? How dare we? So, if there is any movements to support that, I will support that. So everything wants freedom, not the external freedom to run away like Arjuna had. Let me run away from the problem. But inner freedom to know that I can act this way, that way, or another way. And that I am free to act for the right, what I believe, what my soul agrees. So, and that I can be happy with myself. So this should be our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal should not be even that I go and live with my guru as their param shishya in their home forever. Sounds very nice, but it's really the beginning of a cult. And then the guru is like, guru should also have their own inner goals. No, we should all be independent, co-supporting each other, but independent. So our goal is not, I want to live in an ashram. Our goal is not, I want to live in a mountain. Our goal is not, oh, I want darshan of this God and that God. All that is nice, but those are, if you have darshan of God, I had darshan of God when I was 7. Because Baba said that whatever is filling you, you can see in the way that you imagine them. If I imagine God in bell bottoms and on Harley Davidson, I'll see God that way. And in my case, I saw God a certain way, the way God was at my home. I saw Lord Rama with my own eyes. But Baba said, move ahead. It just shows you are pure. You're supported. So we don't stop there. Oh, I saw God at 7, so now I'm all set. I had a lot of journey to do. God showing up to me at age 7 in my own chitta, my own, like I see tree, like I see this camera, like I see the laptop, I see a larger than life God. I've seen. But that was just the start of a journey. Now I have to find that God inside me. That is Jnana Yoga. So therefore, any outer vision that came and went, it is not permanent. It is still mithya. It is still anitya, even if it is the vision of God. So that is where Lord wants to say that only freedom, your true spiritual truth should be a goal. And that comes from Jnana Yoga. And so therefore, the map that you must have is that I'm taking the path of Karma Yoga to achieve the readiness for Jnana Yoga. And whatever devotional practices I shall take up, whether it is selfless service, whether it is japa or mantra, known as upasana yoga in bracket, doesn't matter. Anything that I take up, they are only going to support the purifying of my ego, but they are not going to become ends in themselves. They are not, because there is only one and one clarity known as Eka. He has used Eka. There is only one unswerving clarity that I need, that I am going for the big goal, which is the self. And which is equal to God, which is equal to Atman, which is equal to Brahman. I want that, and I know I feel it, but I want it to be my living reality. So I am not going to be half confused here and there. So in India, there are some newspapers have a spiritual column, because Indians are spiritual. So then one day they will say, raise your kundalini and achieve your liberation. Then one day they will say, do this breathing and achieve your liberation. Then one day they will say, practice viveka and achieve your everything can't lead to liberation. Only the knowledge from the Upanishads of your Atma and Brahman can lead you when you hear your teacher. But all the karma yoga practices, which includes mantra, japa, puja, sandhya, everything, or lighting a candle, or clearing your home. Why do you clear your home? Because I want a pure mind. Why do you do shaucha? I want a pure mind. Why do you speak your truth? I want a pure mind. Why do you have pure relationships? I want a pure mind. Why? Because when my teacher tells me about who I am, it should click. It should click. So karma yoga is, so bring it all under the umbrella of I'm a karma yogi. Otherwise, what happens is, sadly, this is what he is saying. So he says that avyavasayanam, those who do not have clarity regarding what is the means, what is the end. They think means is the end. Oh, I've chanted 108,000 times. I sometimes talk about the uncle who was verbally and emotionally abusive to us children, and I experienced his full wrath upon me because I was motherless and at times fatherless, because he was traveling a lot. So I and my sister were easy targets. My God, he chants morning and night, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. He wears a thread. He does his mantra. He does sandhya. He does puja. But he looks at a 7-year-old and vomits on them verbally. So he was thinking that I have done my sandhya, I have done my mantra, I have done my chanting, and so I'm good to go. So he had confused means with end. So I'm doing this, now I'm doing this. And on top of that, whenever he meets me, he will, because a part of him cares for me, he starts crying and saying things like, I told you Saturn is heavy on you. I told you Mars is going to do this on you. I told you that this God needs to be pleased and that God needs to, all superstition. So finally I told him, I said, look, I have been cultivating inner strength to whatever comes, I will deal. So this is my sadhana. So karma yoga is cultivating inner growth, inner strength. And if we take up any other minor sadhanas which involve our speech, our hands, our ears, our legs, our limbs, all the sadhanas, whether we are doing yoga asana, whether we are doing pranayama, whether we're doing meditation, then everything now has a beautiful home. There is a reason why we are doing it. Then everything is welcome. Then there is nothing wrong. Each piece is a glittering piece of teaching from the Vedic tradition. Asanas, pranayama, kundalini, even the pure tantra, everything is shining. I have no criticism of any of these teachings, except that we get confused because of the volume and the oldness of the tradition and lack of enough people to clarify and streamline the teaching. And then later Krishna also talks about teachers who speak flattering words and just give you some quick relief and say, oh, this mantra shall set you free, or and then the poor seeker, genuine seeker, is just chanting away the mantra without knowing that their own mind is such a strong thing that they can activate. Okay, so again, please understand, mantra is important, yoga is important, meditation is important, but these are all means to the ultimate goal, which is the receiving of the Atma Jnanam, from the teacher, so that Vijnanam emerges from you, and the teacher says you are that, and you say, yes, I am that. And you know it. And there are no more questions left. And everything, all bondages have fallen away. That is who you become. So he says, Bahushakha, too many branches, utter confusion. And this is one of the reasons Hindus give up on Hinduism. Or the Vedic people give up on the Vedas. They don't know the Vedas. Today I was talking to a student in the morning, and she said, oh, we don't know the Vedas out here, where she's outside India. Indian outside India. I said, Indians in India don't know the Vedas, mainly because of this utter confusion and, and so many small things that are available. And then what happens is people throw the baby with the bathwater and say, oh, the Vedas are just a bunch of superstition. No, they are not. Because those of you who've been studying with me are seeing what profound psychology, metaphysics, philosophy, deep teachings that liberate us from our own self-created sorrow and give us fortitude to deal with sorrow that's coming through karma is contained in it. But unfortunately, it's, it's not one person trying to mess it up. It's just situational, that when things get complex, they are hard to maintain, and then over time they became what they wanted to become. So, that's what it is. So, so that is why Lord Krishna is saying, there is anantacha. There are countless notions. Ananta here is being used. Ananta is one word for Atma, which is boundless, but here it is being used merely as an explanation of limitless notions that people have. And, they are confusing. And that is why we need, in Karma Yoga, is a Vyavasyatmika Buddhi of why am I Karma Yogi, and what are the karmas, devotional or spiritual karmas, that I am taking up. If you put it in the Western world, if you remove all the Indian, cultural rituals, then, some people say, oh, I think I'll take a holiday to the Bahamas and find myself. I think I will journal and find myself. I think I will do inner child work and find myself. I think I'll take a meditation workshop, a silence workshop, and to find myself. Then somebody says, I'll do ear candling and find myself. And some people say, I shall do sexual tantra and find myself. Then some people say, okay, I will change my relationship and find myself. Somebody says, I shall start a relationship and find. So bahushakha. So much confusion is going on. But each of these may be useful, probably, once we understand that I'm a karma yogi and I am doing all of this not to make this the goal, but do I get inner strength from it or not? Am I becoming a stronger person, or am I becoming a weaker person? Have I become addicted to ear candling as a result? That is the question. So when you grow, then you will be able to gain. You will be able to find a gain even in your failures, and what to say of success. Okay, and in manam apamanam, when you have people, you may have gain in respect, or you may have some loss of respect. Temporarily, critics always come. I mean, people were throwing stones at Jesus, and he was Jesus. Now, who am I? I get criticism. Who is anybody else? Everybody. There's always some people in the woodwork criticizing the person in the light. Oh, okay. This happens, because there are three kinds of people: the tamas, the rajas, and the sattva. So the sattva people will come and give honest feedback. The rajas people will be envious. The tamas people will be criticizing. This happens with everybody. So even with Lord Rama, there were people plotting against him and his coronation. So these things happen. But when you're a karma yogi, you are not. If I was doing what I was doing at Vedika, because I was a karmi, then I would be so brokenhearted by any criticism, and I would rush and weep and tell Baba he put me in the wrong place and plea bargain my way out. But because I'm a karma yogi, I go, yeah, I'm stronger. That is what happens when your inner growth becomes your goal, and you want inner freedom. You want psychological, emotional freedom. And this comes from Jnana Yoga, but Karma Yoga shall prepare you for it. So the route map becomes very clear. And so therefore now, once we become karma yogis, we will not just run after any sadhana, any great person is teaching free here, there, on the internet, paid. We are very clear, that, and even sadhanas that I have taught are, there is satsang is our first goal, knowledge, the sadhana to support it, and seva to see if you have had inner growth or are you falling apart. Your ego is saying, why am I doing sadhana? Why am I washing dishes? I'm not being paid for it. I'm not da 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 da. So then you come back to satsang and you realize that you are washing the dishes because you're washing your own ego. You're not washing dishes for anybody else. So it's like that, So otherwise what happens is we run here, we run there, we go round and round in circles, we are confused. And so sadly, the very confused, the genuine people who wanted something, they get more and more confused, more and more confounded. They run from this branch to that branch. They create a lot of karmas, and unfortunately, those karmas also bound them up, and there is no clear path. So he is very clear that in karma yoga, you want to have, in this verse 41, he was very clear that he wanted us to have vyavasatmika buddhi. Okay, so just 1 second. I think I lost my page here for a minute. Here it is. Kuru Nandana means Kuru is the clan of Arjuna, and Nandana means child of, or one who belongs to the Kuru clan, Kuru Nandana. So he's saying vyavasatmika buddhi, clear understanding in the intellect. Eka, ekaha, only one single-minded focus, clear understanding. O Arjuna, O Kuru Nandana, you need to develop. It helps you develop that I want mental clarity. Because bahushaka hanantascha, there are bahushaka means many branches which are limitless, ananta cha. So, and this is deeply confusing. Vyavasayana, very confusing. Then in the next 3 verses, from verse 42 to 43 to 44, Lord Krishna really comes down heavy on probably some of the priestly class and some of the self-appointed teachers of smaller sections and bits and pieces of the tradition, without even hinting that there is a bigger tradition behind. No teacher, even I can't really, even if I teach every minute of my every awake moment, I cannot convey to you more than 10% of the Veda, really. But I was happy to hear one of my Sadasyas who I was talking to today said, oh, but whatever slim pie you are giving us is real. And I felt happy because at least they know it's a pie and there is more, rather than me. No teacher can really convey everything in defense of every teacher who has not been able to do that. Probably Shankaracharya did it. That's why we consider him an avatar of Shiva. But not everybody. And Vyasacharya could do what he did by editing and compiling the Vedas, which were even bigger, into 4 books. But the point is that the ordinary human teachers like me, whose dog begins to bark in the middle of the teaching, I beg your pardon, I can't teach all of it, but at least I can give you a context. I can be honest and sincere and say, this is what I can teach, this is what I will not be able to cover. And but probably even at that time, not just now, sincere-minded but half knowledge, half givers of knowledge confuse the situation. So I'm going to chant all 3 mantras and then I'm going to just teach from them together, because really these 3 mantras are like one long sentence broken into 3 shlokas. So I'm not going to stop with each one of them, but I'll give a general commentary and then move on to the last shloka, or probably just stop here because it's 8:34. Yami mam pushpitam vacham pravadantya vipaschitaha vedavadaratah partha nanyadastiti vadinaha kamatmana swargaparaha janma karma phalapradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishwarya gatim prati bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya prahita chetasam vyavasayatmaka buddhihi samadhau navadhiyate. So I'll go slowly because it's a long sentence. But basically what he's saying is that the ones who are enamored by the rituals that have been, the rituals and the other promises of some siddhis within the Vedas itself, and I'll explain why they exist, are somewhat unintelligent. He's not saying it in a dismissive way, but there is an intelligent way when you discern, and then there is an unintelligent way where you just get excited by, oh, what will I get? You'll get rich, you will get this, you will get more beautiful. And so you go for those rituals, and they are seekers ultimately of heaven, So even the Bible, it has led people along, or Quran. Every religion has heaven. If you are good, you will get heaven. If you are good, you will get heaven. And nowadays, what is heaven? If you are a good boy in the corporate world, you will get a heaven severance package. You will get a heaven promotion. You will get a heaven retreat in Hawaii. So, we are always chasing the heaven. Okay? If you are in the third world, then heaven for you is migration to America or Australia. So we are always checking out for the heaven, So the Vedas also have some rituals called homams or fire rituals, etc. And I'll explain that they were not there to seduce people, but they began to be used that way. I'll explain. So Lord is saying that the unintelligent ones amongst us, or when we are unintelligent, because we've all been there, we get enamored by, statements from the ritualistic portion. Upanishads don't have a single such statement, but from the beginning section of the Vedas, known as the Samhitas. And these are seekers of heaven. They always want more happiness, more promotion, more beauty, more comfort, more family, more money. And they always argue that there is nothing else besides, worldly accomplishment. They are full of desires. And the promoters of this speak flowery words. These are his exact words, flowery words, which are full of, specific, temptations and very specific steps for attaining what you need, the pleasure, the power, the wealth. So they will say, you must spend, $5,000 and buy this gem and then wear it on the Thursday morning. And then you must, have a fire ritual, and then you must give the priest this much. And so in there it happens like that. Okay. And then what does it do? All this just leads to more karma. And then it leads to more births, because you might have done a special ritual for, may I be the king of this world, may I have a lot of money. And then the money doesn't come this lifetime, it comes 8 lifetimes later. But you've already started the process, because it's a magical universe and you are the self and you can get what you want, but you didn't think, and all you want is money. And then it comes 8 births later. So now 8 more births trudging along. So it's, so he says firm knowledge does not take place, that money or no money, you want to be free. And once you're free, you will have everything anyway. So you want to go for the freedom of the self-knowledge first. So these people become attached to pleasure and power and to wealth. There's nothing wrong with pleasure, power, and wealth, and I'll explain that. But these people get obsessed with it, carried away with it, and carried away by the words of the people. So he's saying that he's explaining what happens. This is what he explains from 40 to 44, and you have your own books to read through. So these people are called karmis and not karma yogis. And now I must explain to you, stop and explain 3 kinds of karmas that we want to do according to karma yoga. And these 3 karmas are based on the mental qualities called gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. So sattvika karmas or actions are those which benefit maximum number of people. It includes you. And so they are not self-centered for sure. They do take into account the welfare and the well-being of other people. And they contain the self, but it's the bigger self. It's a big self, not just a small shrunk self. And these are called sattvika or sattvic karmas. Then Lord mentions later, but I'm just mentioning now itself so I have more clarity. There is rajas karmas or rajasa karmani. These are purely self-centered actions. These are very oriented towards your own individual benefit, or it benefits now the few people you think they are yours, mamakara and ahamkara, me and mine. So so it can change from my immediate family, and even then you can have favorites. And this brother, first brother is more favorite, second brother is less, versus my cousins, then they are more yours. So there's a lot of game playing around. Me and mine keeps changing, and the person is not really bothered about anybody else. And whether they are harmed, whether they are benefited. If they are benefited, okay. If they are harmed, okay. As long as I'm benefiting, I should get the benefit. So they are selfish. They are not. They are self-centered. They are whereas that was non-self-centered, and they are bordering on selfish too. And self-centered means you just kind of tunnel vision. My job, my car. That's how we get into a rage in the freeway. Also, we always say, why are others here? I should be the only one. It's a very rajas mode at that time, and we feel upset when others do some things which are accomplished, because we just want our benefit. Okay, if we go to the bank, we want to be first in the line. If we want to go to the store, we don't want others to be buying groceries as if it's an affront to you, your majesty showing up, like the whole world lives for you. So you're just focused on you. It's a rajas actions. Tamas actions are those in which you are not only self-centered, but it's to the point of you are other hurting, because your selfishness has increased to this level that you may not even stop from taking harmful actions against others. This is when we start, cheating, bribing, smuggling, frauding, lying, betraying, backbiting, gossiping, having multiple agendas, hiding our cards. So we have become manipulative. And you need not become a world-renowned smuggler. You could just be white lying your way through life. And that's tamas karma, white lies, but it's tamas karma. So we can divide up all our actions into selfless. When I say selfless, it's not means a martyr. It doesn't mean you have to join Red Cross. It just means, I don't want to call it selfless. Let's call it egoless, non-self-centered actions, win-win actions. Then you have selfish actions, which is rajas, and then you have harmful actions, which is tamas. Okay. Naturally, if you are going to be a karma yogi, you're going to yourself want to have more sattvic actions and to really look through your own rajas and tamas actions, take ownership, say buck stops with me, and I'm going to not, go on. I'm going to bring sattva into it. Now, sattvic actions will contribute primarily to their inner growth, and they may or may not contribute at times to your material growth. They often do, but you can't. If you're a true karma yogi, you're not going to choose. If you had a choice between material growth and inner growth, you're going to choose inner growth. That's the true sign of a material, of a karma yogi. I don't remember which class, because I've been teaching a lot of classes, but it was not this class. Prior to starting Vedic, I had received an offer from a Hollywood producer, and it was going to be a very materially lucrative deal, so to say, for me and my partner. And I'm still in touch with that person because he's on our newsletter, and sometimes I get hello from him. But At that time, it was a very lucrative thing to do, but the whole enterprise was based on rajas, not tamas, but rajas. And whereas Vedika is, and my work here is purely being driven from karma yoga and sattvika. So I said no to them, and I chose. And after a few years, I started this. This is less glamorous. It has less money. There is less, talking to a bigger group, but I'm talking to the right group with the right attitude. So, and I'm having inner growth in the process, and everybody's else inner growth. So here's an example of how when the, what do you say in American English, tire hits the road, or some rubber hits the road or something, then a karma yogi will always choose inner growth or truth over, material something. And so in the rajas karma, it may not give you any inner growth, but it primarily contributes to your outer material growth for sure. And it may not damage your inner growth, but it may not contribute much to it either, But in tamas karma, what happens is you may have material benefit because of your corruption, your ability to cheat, your adulterate, fool others, bluff others, backstab. But you don't have, not only have inner growth, you actually regress. You actually create very negative karmas. And in rajas, you may grow, but you'll definitely be very anxious to grow, and you'll suffer a lot mentally, and you will not have much growth at all. So the point we have to remember here, I'm just taking a digression so I can go back to what Lord Krishna was saying in these 3 verses, is that sattvic karmas, where we dare to be non-self-centered and cultivate sattva for dharma and moksha, primarily contributes to inner growth. Rajas karma contributes in a very limited way and mostly binds us up in limited way to none, and binds us in sorrow and anxiety. And tamas karma gives us probably maximum material growth, but at the cost of others, and also pulls us down into a drudge hole of poor karmas. So this is one information that I wanted to give you as we continue studying. And the other information that I wanted to give you, that Lord will give us ultimately, is that the real peace and the real happiness lies in inner growth alone, period. There is a door here that you have to open if you are really serious here. If you are studying with me so that you can have material growth, maybe, because sattvic karmas does not decry that there won't be material growth, but then you might get tested, and you might have to choose sattva over tamas or rajas. And will you be able to be like me and say no to the Hollywood producer and his big package? That's the deal. I don't know if I was going to be the face of Ayurveda on huge posters in Las Vegas, would I have been as radiant as I am today? I don't know. But I chose what my true guru had taught me. So, I feel at peace with myself. Because I know that the other person, the people who offered me, are not happy at all. That's all I know. So who do I hang out with? I am happy. I hang out with my happiness, my guru, my teacher, God, and with you who want to be here. So it's just a question of, Veda is not against external growth or material prosperity. In fact, artha and kama, artha means material growth, and kama means pleasures and happiness and material comfort. These are all part of our legitimate purusharthas, but they should not be chosen over and above our inner growth. We cannot allow the inner growth to be stunted. So first, we should know that there are these 3 types of karmas. Second, we should know that between the 3 karmas, we prefer sattvic karma because we give credence to inner growth, because our goal is peace of mind. So that, remember why? So that we can pursue Jnana Yoga. And when our teacher is reminding us about our true self, our true freedom emerges from within. Our ultimate goal is freedom. Our temporary goal in karma yoga is peace of mind, clarity, etc., so that we can become a worthy recipient of jnanam. So keeping these 2 things in mind, now let us look at the 3 verses which Lord Krishna is saying. So he is mainly criticizing here people seekers and teachers who are committed to rajasic actions, he is choosing not to criticize the tamasic seekers and teachers, probably because it's a given. If you're committing rajas already, you don't have to commit tamas already. So there is a lot of editorial frugality, if you see in the teaching also. He's not going on and on. So he just chooses the one part. And I think it's understood that you don't want to go in tamas here also. Okay. So who are the rajasic action people? Those who are interested in their own personal benefit and mainly material benefit. So they even teach spirituality for material benefit. So, and it's like, okay, if you are going to chant this mantra, you can have a bigger, more money. If you chant this mantra, you can have a bigger house, etc., etc. So, so that's one thing. So there are some words he uses here, which you can look into the English there. He uses the word avipaschitaha, A-V-I-P-A-S, something like that in your English. Avipaschitaha, I'm seeing the Sanskrit here. So who are these avipaschitaha? He is describing a certain type of people called avipaschitaha. They are very rajas in their mind. So they are selfish, self-centered. They are overly materialistic. They don't think beyond money. And so they are somewhat indiscriminate. They don't make intelligent decisions. They don't understand. Even if that ultimately material accomplishments can make life, they think that their material accomplishments will bring them the peace. When I achieve this goal, when I get that deal, when I lock that issue, then I will be peaceful. But then it leads to new problems. So they don't understand. Avipaschita don't understand. They keep waiting for wealth. And just in case wealth is not coming soon, in this lifetime or a decade later or 2 decades later, they just keep waiting and they get more and more restless and bound in problems. So they are also called avivekaha, because aviveki, because viveka means those who have the correct discernment. What is discernment? Ultimately, the discernment is, and you will study this in Sadhana Chatushtayam, that the discernment is that what is my priority? Do I want moksha, freedom? Do I want dharma, which teaches me to be a free person, and then moksha, to be free? Or do I want to forever chase arthakama, money and the pleasure it brings me? Because this notion itself is a confused notion, and so they are called people who don't have discernment. Very common example that every Vedanta teacher gives is money can buy you bed, it can't buy you sleep. Simple. So money can buy you people. Surround yourself with people, go to clubs, find people, richest people, chit chat with them, but money cannot give you the values and the dharma to keep friends of worthiness, retain them, have them at your time of need. You will be friendless. You may have money in your pocket. So there are many things that money can buy. Money can buy you all kinds of food. It cannot buy you health. Health comes from peace of mind and happiness. So the most rich people, the biggest diseases, then they need hospitals. So anyway, the point I'm saying is that they have got confused. And so these people are known as avipaschita. So he first explains avipaschita. And their main issue is that they are running after wealth. Artha. Sometimes they even give up pleasure for artha. Money. And it ruins their life. Okay. And because of that, they go to the moment of problem, I'll go to astrologer, I will go to Vastu Shastra, I will change the building here, I will, where. Now, these are all also Vidyas. But again, remember, if you have a clear map, then astrology is only a small part of the big picture. It cannot be the ultimate part. Because according to my astrology, I should be having just, difficulty after difficulty in personal relationship and this and that. But my Baba himself showed me, and then I'm done. Okay, I get it. This is my classroom. This is where I have to be conscious. This is where I have to have dharma and moksha, right here. So you can sometimes we go for important matters to astrologer, then we go for small matters, then we go for every matter, then we go every year for a reading. What should I undergo? Then every quarter we go. And so it's, why? Because I want to be wealthy in my life. I want a certain way in my life. So it's a very difficult life, and they get confused. Then even if the teacher says, okay, you remove the stone, you don't wear, oh, we still wear it. Because along with the teacher and the jnana, we're also hoping that this little stone is going to save me, from sorrow. So it's like your mind, it is still holding on to the fear of this and that. And karma yoga is saying, become fearless. This, because bhakti yoga is saying, even the challenges coming to you is nothing but God's love. So teacher is teaching something, we are holding on to, okay, maybe the north wall should be broken down, then a fountain should be put there. So we are making all these plea bargains, no? So how can we ever really become a karma yogi when we are so surrounded by fear? It's just an example. So these people, they are like that. They are unintelligent, Then another one is Veda Vada Rataha. This is another word, Veda Vada Rataha. So what happens is, in the Veda, there are some mantras and even certain worship rituals, fire rituals that have been described, that lead to, the fulfillment of your artha kama desires. So one very popular, for example, Avahanti Homa, Avahanti fire ritual, it is for wealth, and wealth and annam, abundance, and vastram, clothes. So it's it gives you a lot of comfort. So it's one of the, if you do a thing in India, everybody is doing this homa, So why was all this mentioned in the Veda? It was mentioned in the Veda so that, because when Lord gives us everything, the Ishvara, Brahman has everything, wealth, food, clothes. And so when you did this mantra and this puja, it was a formal way of asking Ishvara. And when you did the homa, you actually took some wealthy things in your home, you detached from them and you put them in the fire. So you took off your rings and your jewels, whatever you had, you put them in the fire and everything, put rich clothes, silk and all, you put it, you made it into carbon, you spread it all across the world, and then you trusted. It was an amazing thing. First you let go and then you receive. But nobody teaches the philosophy anymore. Now we just call a Purohit, pay him 108,000 rupees or dollars here, and then you just do the homa and I want to be rich. So what happened was that people get really caught up in all of that. So he's now criticizing the priest who are Veda Vrataha, means they are promoting those rituals. There are some Purohits who just go from place to place only doing homas. They are only doing fire rituals. What do you want? You want a son? Okay, I will do this ritual. What do you want? You want Lakshmi's blessings? We will do this ritual. We also did fire ritual at Vedika, but it was only one kind of fire ritual, which was the auspicious beginning of the education. And that may we get blessings from Ishvara. But we never did anything on, oh, we need $1 million coming into Vedika. We need this, we need that, because we are not using the Vedas just for that. And what he's complaining here is that they only give the quick fix, but they don't teach that besides Artha Kama, there is also Dharma and Moksha Purusharthas. And they don't discuss that, do you really need more wealth, or when is enough? Are you satisfied? Because the richest people are doing these homas because they can afford it. So they want more money, and then they want more money. So in India, we have, millionaire priests who are doing these homas, and they are given the same respect as any others. But what they are really doing is making the big magical, mystical book, nothing more than that. And here, use this and get this. So therefore, what Baba used to say is that we have to study the full knowledge, the philosophy behind the Veda. Then we will understand how the Veda wanted to meet all our needs. But the Veda never wanted to convert us into obsessive, compulsive wealth and male child and sexual, prowess seekers through the Veda. So it is the ambassadors of the Veda who don't give the full picture, who need to take fuller responsibility. And that is why Baba used to say that some of you feel that, wow, I get to study the Gita. But the Gita study is compulsory today, because that's what I can say to you, because the Gurukulam system where Gita used to be taught in the early phase of life is gone. And so what you are doing with me is you are learning to live life intelligently and not mess up all your goals, and not give up on wealth either, and not give up on pleasure either, but always know that your internal growth and your inner peace is up to you, and when to draw a line and when to say what is enough. So I'm just concluding because I know it's 9 p.m. And I won't be really able to complete this mantra. So in my last lines, he says that most people, he uses the word kamatmanaha. So he is describing how humans have become embodiments of materialistic desires. We're just a big desire for wealth, for sex, for home, for clothes, for foods, and we have hands and legs. And that's what we are doing. We're just grabbing them. And we're ultimately seeking our version of the heaven, afterlife or in this life. If I could just find the ideal person, I'll have heaven. If I can get the perfect house with the beautiful backyard, I'll have the heaven. And we're just seeking that. And so he says, your ambition should be to be a karma yogi and to have inner growth and inner peace. Your heaven lies in you. Fine, get that heaven. And that heaven is self, for which you are preparing karma yogi. So I will have to stop here because it is 9 p.m. And I'm happy to stay on for 5-6 more minutes in case somebody had a burning question. Otherwise, this topic is not complete and we can always end that later. Maybe I will only stay till 9:05. I only have 4 minutes. Okay, a question is from what would be the main distinction between Buddhi Yoga and Jnana Yoga, as both involve the intellect? Buddhi Yoga is more of the intellect, and Jnana Yoga is where the intellect and mind are already working and you are getting a direct transmission. So both, of course, they both involve intellect, but we kind of start fine-tuning the buddhi at the level of the intellect and in karma yoga more. I hope that helps, Lara. How many of you are feeling, you can show me your hands because I can see it. How many of you are feeling motivated to have a very clear focus of what you want and understanding how to take all your sadhanas and streamline them for a clear, peaceful, nurtured inner mind, and not reject your sadhanas but put them in place, clarify your means and ends? Any hands? Wonderful. I'm very pleased. It gives us such a clear direction in that sense. Any last comment or question? Okay. Does Shreyas have a question? Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to receive some guidance or clarity around sustaining our sadhanas and sustaining even our contemplations. Like oftentimes I'll find myself very able to do it for a short period of time, especially when things are big situations, like cut my finger yesterday, was very able to separate myself from pain. But the longer term, how do I support that longer term sadhana and sticking with it?
Which sadhana? Jnana Yoga sadhana of contemplation?
Yes.
The longer you stay as a student, the longer it will become useful. In the first stage, in the first stage of studentship, we pick up some contemplations and they are like loose bricks lying around. You can't build a house right away with loose bricks, my child. But I see your perseverance in collecting the bricks. Keep going back to it is like the cement, you know. Gradually, you'll have enough bricks to start creating one wall, and you can stand by it and protect yourself from the winds of confusion. And over time, and that is known as the Mananam stage. And then gradually, in the Nididhyasnam stage, you will create a little hut with those bricks. And you know, when you are challenged, you shall sit in that hut. So my answer for you is that you won't always have a streamlined thought to support you. It may not come for the 1 hour or hour and a half, but it might come after that, you know. So peacefulness, connecting with the inner peace is spotty in the beginning. It gets better. And then I can tell you that I live in sustained peace. So now I have peace, and then interruptions come. Earlier, I was interruption, seeking peace. Now I am peace, and I feel that interruptions come, but my peace remains. I'm like the lighthouse, my child. I would say that you could keep a journal, a free-flowing journal of, not of copious notes that you shall never go back to, but of something that really strikes you here. You know, you could draw, you could write something. And sometimes I had done that when I was in a very serious contemplation phase and something would really speak to me, hold me, grab me. Then I would write that. And sometimes when I was in a distressing time, I would just flip through my journal and it would be like I had been sitting with, you know, Vyasacharya, Shankaracharya, Ayodhyanatacharya, Shanti Prakashacharya, and Shunacharya. And I got what I needed because these were, you know, my messages to me. And, you know, if I go back to that journal that I kept over a period of 3 years in my 30s, it's really no more than 25 pages. But those 25 pages had meaning for me back then. You know, sometimes I would just write a line that can help you probably with your contemplation. So don't capture my words, you know, don't get into the Shastravasana of, oh, this sentence sounds wonderful. When you heard it, what did it do to you? Write that or draw that, you know, or maybe you could just draw a weeping Shreyas and say, letting go of tears, because I know that this too shall pass. Even that can be powerful, my child. Thank you, everyone. Our teachings at Vedika in this Vedic studies program through the study of Bhagavad Gita are at their deepest portal at this point. We have covered Jnana Yoga, we are in Karma Yoga, we shall re-enter Bhakti Yoga again, and then everything will be taught all over again. It's just going to get deeper and deeper. But with a clear map, as Lord Krishna has said, and without anger towards our own selves or anyone else who taught us bits and pieces, because you can put all of those bits and pieces together into one channel, you know, they will all be useful. Whatever you have learned, whether it is, you know, qigong or yoga or meditation, everything can be brought together. We can have a very peaceful journey to claiming our inner freedom. Jai Ma. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shanti Shanti Shanti. May peace be our goal through Karma Yoga, inner peace. Jai Ma.